Did you know that your unconscious mind already knows who the love of your life is, even before your conscious mind becomes aware of it? Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists in history, discovered something that can completely change the way you see love. And I need to warn you right now. What you are about to hear may make you rethink all of your past and present relationships. It may even explain why you have felt that strange emptiness in connections that looked perfect on paper. There is an invisible force, a hidden pattern inside your unconscious that works like a cosmic magnet, pulling toward you the exact person you need to complete your process of individuation. Jung called it the anima and the animus. And this force is active in your life right now as you read these words, shaping every decision you make about love without you even noticing it. But here is the uncomfortable part. Most people ignore these signs because they are too busy chasing what they think they want instead of recognizing what their soul truly needs. And when I say soul, I do not mean the cheap romance shown in Hollywood movies. I am talking about something much deeper and life-changing, something that can alter the very structure of your personality. During more than 40 years of studying the human mind, Jung noticed patterns that repeated again and again in his patients. He discovered that those who found real love, the kind of love that truly changed their lives, experienced certain clear signs that most people ignored or misunderstood. These are not coincidences or romantic fantasies. They are real expressions of deep, archetypal forces working in the most primitive layers of our brain. The first sign that you have found the love of your life is what Jung described as the activation of your archetypal counterpart. This goes far beyond what modern psychology calls compatibility. In every man, there is an unconscious feminine element that Jung called the anima. And in every woman, there is an unconscious masculine element called the animus. These are not abstract ideas floating somewhere in the air. They are real psychological forces that can be observed through neurological and hormonal changes that influence every choice you make about love. Jung discovered that a man's anima develops mainly through his early experiences with important female figures, especially his mother. But it does not stop with that first impression. It keeps evolving throughout life, taking in elements from all meaningful experiences with women. The animus in women follows a similar but opposite path, developing mainly through experiences with important male figures. When you meet the love of your life, something extraordinary happens on a neurological level. This person naturally and effortlessly activates your anima or your animus. I am not talking about simple physical attraction that can disappear after a few weeks. I am talking about a deep resonance that happens in the deepest layers of your being, in those areas of the mind that Jung called the collective unconscious. You feel as if this person awakens parts of you that you never even knew existed. Suddenly, you begin expressing aspects of your personality that have been sleeping for years, maybe even decades. A man may discover an emotional sensitivity he buried since childhood. A woman may find an inner strength and leadership ability she never knew she possessed. Have you noticed that some people can spend months or even years with you without ever making you feel truly understood? They may accept you and perhaps even love you in some way, but an invisible wall never breaks down. Yet with other people, from the very first meeting, you feel a strange familiarity. It feels as if you have been waiting your whole life for that moment, as though you have finally returned home after a long journey through unfamiliar places. This is not coincidence, and it is not romantic projection. It is your anima or animus recognizing its perfect counterpart, the missing piece of your psychological puzzle. Jung observed that in this moment, brain regions connected to deep memories become active, as if we are remembering something we forgot a long time ago. But pay close attention, because something very important comes next. This activation does not always feel pleasant in the beginning. In fact, it can be deeply disturbing. Jung found that when our deepest archetypes are touched, we experience what he called a constellation of complexes. This means your entire psychic structure begins to reorganize itself in order to make room for this new energy. It is as if someone has entered your psychological house and started moving the furniture around without asking your permission. You may feel a strange mixture of fascination and fear, as though this person has the power to change you in ways that you cannot control or predict. And this is exactly where you should pay attention. True love, the love of your life, does not leave you the same. It transforms you on an archetypal level. This transformation is not optional. You cannot experience only the pleasant side of this activation. It comes as a complete package that includes the shaking of personality patterns that you once believed were fixed and impossible to change. Jung warned that many people run away at this exact moment because they are afraid of the intensity of the transformation that is coming. The second sign is closely connected to what Jung considered the most important aspect of psychological development: the integration of the shadow. We all have a shadow, the part of ourselves that we have suppressed, denied, or rejected because it does not fit the image we want to show the world. The shadow contains not only our negative traits, but also our undeveloped potential, hidden talents, suppressed passions, and our most primitive instincts. During his many years of research, Jung discovered something fascinating. The shadow does not disappear when we ignore it. Instead, it becomes stronger, more destructive, and begins sabotaging our relationships from the unconscious. Most relationship conflicts, according to Jung, are not really about the surface issues that people argue over. They are about unintegrated shadow aspects that are projected onto another person. When you meet the love of your life, something happens that most relationships never reach. This person can see your shadow without running away from it. More importantly, in a mysterious way, they help you integrate your shadow into your conscious personality in a healthy manner. They do not judge you for your darker sides. They do not try to repair or improve you. They simply accept the fullness of your being with an understanding that goes beyond logic. Have you ever been with someone who made you feel that you could be completely yourself, even in your darkest and most difficult parts? I am not talking about someone who only tolerates your flaws with resentment. I mean someone who somehow turns those flaws into strengths, or at least sees them from a completely different perspective. For example, your tendency to be overly critical, which ruined past relationships, suddenly becomes a valuable skill for improving situations. Your stubbornness, which others considered an unbearable flaw, turns into admirable determination when directed toward meaningful goals. Your deep sensitivity, which has caused you so much pain, becomes an extraordinary ability for empathy and understanding. But be careful, because this also means that this person will constantly challenge your ego. They will confront you, not in an aggressive or destructive way, but in a manner that forces you to face parts of yourself that you would rather keep hidden. If someone in your life does this naturally and lovingly, without becoming your enemy in the process, you should pay close attention. This may be one of the clearest signs of true love. This confrontation does not feel like an attack. It feels like an invitation to grow, to expand, and to become a more complete version of yourself. Jung observed that conflicts in these transformative relationships do not destroy the connection. Instead, they deepen it, because both people intuitively understand that they are taking part in a sacred process of mutual growth. The third sign is perhaps the most mysterious and powerful of all: synchronicity. Jung developed this idea after years of noticing that certain seemingly unrelated events appeared to be connected by something greater than simple chance. He defined synchronicity as meaningful coincidences that point toward the existence of a deeper order in the universe, an order that goes beyond ordinary laws and suggests that some connections are guided by forces our conscious minds cannot fully understand. The third sign of cause and effect. When it comes to the love of your life, these synchronicities increase dramatically and take on even more complex and unlikely forms. I am not talking about simple coincidences like accidentally meeting in the same coffee shop. I mean a carefully arranged chain of seemingly impossible events that appear to work together to bring you close in a way that goes beyond logical explanation. Jung documented cases where his patients experienced sequences of synchronicities so complicated that he tried to calculate the mathematical chances of them happening randomly. In some situations, the probability was 1 in several million. These could include repeated meetings in places where neither of you should reasonably have been, connections through people who had no idea the two of you were meant to meet, or even dreams and feelings that later appeared in reality in a strangely accurate way. But synchronicities linked to the love of your life have special qualities that separate them from normal coincidences. First, they usually become stronger during moments of crisis or important decisions in the relationship. Second, they often involve symbols, signs, or images that have deep personal meaning for both people. Third, they frequently contain elements that seem to come from completely unexpected sources, unrelated to your conscious daily life. Jung believed that synchronicities are signals that we are aligned with our personal destiny, with what he called the archetypal self, the most complete and authentic version of who we truly are. When you experience a chain of synchronicities centered around a particular person, your unconscious mind is sending you a very clear message. This person plays an important role in your process of becoming your true self. Have you ever noticed that with certain people, synchronicities happen almost all the time, as if the universe itself were actively trying to keep you connected, creating meetings that go beyond any conscious planning, almost as though a higher intelligence were arranging events so that your paths cross again and again? But here is the fascinating part. These synchronicities do not end once you are together. In fact, they become even stronger and develop into more subtle, yet equally powerful forms. You begin to experience what Jung called mystical participation, a psychic bond that goes beyond the rational explanations of modern science. You may often have the same thoughts at exactly the same time, far more frequently than statistics could explain. You may experience similar or complementary dreams without ever discussing them beforehand. You may have intuitive feelings about the other person's emotional state that turn out to be surprisingly accurate, as if you both shared a common emotional radar. Jung recorded cases in which couples separated by thousands of kilometers experienced physical sensations at the same moment when the other person was in danger or suffering. This is not fantasy or self-suggestion, but a measurable phenomenon that Jung carefully studied for many years. This mystical participation is not emotional dependency or unhealthy attachment. It is something much deeper. It is as if you have discovered a shared frequency that allows both of you to sense each other on levels beyond ordinary verbal or physical communication. The fourth sign is closely related to what Jung considered one of the greatest achievements of his work: the archetypes of the collective unconscious. According to Jung, universal patterns of behavior and experience exist within every human being and are shared by all humanity. These archetypes include figures such as the lover, the sage, the warrior, the great mother, the wise father, the eternal child, the trickster, and many more. Jung discovered that most people activate only a small part of the archetypes available to them. This creates a continuous feeling of incompleteness, as if we are playing only a few instruments in a huge orchestra. Life feels restricted and repetitive, as though we are constantly acting in the same role, without access to the full range of our humanity. When you find the love of your life, you realize that this person acts like a master key, harmoniously awakening multiple archetypes within you at the same time. They awaken not only your inner lover, but may also bring forward your wise teacher, your protective caregiver, your fearless explorer, your creative artist, or any other archetypal quality necessary for your full development. This appears in very real and noticeable ways. You may become braver than you ever imagined, more compassionate toward others, more creative in your work, wiser in your choices, or more playful in your everyday life. Not because you are pretending or trying to become someone different, but because their presence literally awakens hidden possibilities within your psychological structure. Jung noticed that in truly life-changing relationships, both partners become catalysts for the realization of each other's highest archetypes. It is as if each of you possesses the secret code needed to unlock the other's hidden treasures. Treasures that may have remained buried for years or even decades. Have you ever been with someone who makes you feel like the very best version of yourself without effort? Not because you are trying to impress them or playing a part, but because simply being near them brings out sides of your personality that you never knew existed. Like a piano that has finally found the musician capable of playing every key. This archetypal awakening has powerful effects on your daily life. Your creativity expands, your leadership becomes stronger, your intuition becomes sharper, your sense of humor deepens, and your courage to face challenges increases. It is as if this person has switched on lights in rooms of your personality that had remained dark for many years. But the deepest part of this experience is that the archetypal activation is mutual and continuously strengthens itself. Not only does this person bring out the best in you, but you also have the same transforming effect on them. Together, you create a field of psychic energy that allows both of you to become more complete and more authentic versions of yourselves. Jung observed that couples who experience this mutual archetypal activation often develop abilities that neither person possessed alone. Their combined intelligence becomes greater than the sum of their individual abilities. Their shared creativity exceeds what either could have achieved by themselves. Their ability to solve problems, overcome crises, and create beauty in the world increases dramatically. The fifth and final sign is perhaps the most important and life-changing of all. The unmistakable feeling that you are living your personal myth with this person. Jung believed that every individual is born with a unique myth, an archetypal story that gives meaning and purpose to life. This personal myth is not something we consciously invent. It is a deep pattern that rises from the collective unconscious and guides our development from birth until death. Most people move through life without consciously participating in this personal myth. They live as if they are actors in a play whose complete script they never received. They know they are on the stage, they know they have a role to play, but they do not fully understand the greater story to which they belong. When the love of your life enters your world, everything suddenly begins to make sense in a way that goes beyond intellectual understanding. This person does not simply fit into your story. Their presence makes your story richer, deeper, and more meaningful. It feels as though you had lived only half of your myth until now, and suddenly you are able to see the complete narrative. Jung observed that when two people discover this mythical resonance, they experience what he called the union of opposites. It is not about being exactly the same or having no differences. It is about your differences complementing one another in a way that creates something greater than the sum of your separate parts. This does not mean your life before this encounter had no value or meaning. It means that all of your previous experiences, including your deepest pain, your greatest failures, and your most beautiful successes, suddenly reveal themselves as necessary chapters that prepared you for this meeting. Every wound becomes wisdom. Every loss becomes preparation for something better. Every period of loneliness becomes understandable as the time when you developed the inner strength needed for this connection. Jung called this the process of individuation, the journey of becoming who you were truly meant to be. He observed that for many people, this process reaches its highest point through meeting the so-called significant other, the person who acts as a catalyst for the complete unfolding of your potential. Have you ever felt that your life with a certain person carries a deeper, almost magical meaning? As if all the scattered pieces of your experiences suddenly join together into a clear and beautiful pattern. As if this person was not simply an addition to your life, but the missing piece that makes your existence feel complete. But here is something very important to understand. something that separates those who are truly prepared for the love of their life from those who keep searching for shallow substitutes. Recognizing these signs requires a level of self-awareness and emotional honesty that most people deliberately avoid. It is much easier to stay on the surface and focus on obvious similarities like shared hobbies, physical attraction, financial security, or social acceptance than to explore the archetypal depth of a connection. Jung warned that most people run away from true love because it demands too much growth, too much change, and too much honesty about who a person really is beyond carefully created social masks. Archetypal love, the love of your life, does not allow you to remain small, comfortable, or hidden. It constantly pushes you to evolve, to face your shadows, and to integrate parts of yourself that you would rather keep separate and tightly controlled. This kind of love requires letting go of the illusion of complete control over your life and identity. It asks for trust in processes that go beyond your logical understanding. It demands faith in transformations that you cannot consciously manage. Are you truly ready for such a level of change? Are you prepared for someone to see all your weaknesses, all your flaws, all your deepest fears, and for their love for you not to become weaker, but to become even deeper because of them? Are you ready to do the same for another person? For if these 5 signs are present in your life right now, do not ignore them because of fear or attachment to familiar but limiting patterns. Your unconscious self is trying to tell you something profound about your destiny and your process of individuation. It is trying to reveal a path toward a version of yourself that you never even knew could exist. Jung did not see love as a temporary feeling or a passing emotion that appears and disappears depending on outside circumstances. He saw it as an archetypal force, a transformative energy with the ability to completely reorganize your inner psychological structure and guide you toward the realization of your highest potential. This force follows laws that go beyond ordinary logic. It does not react to manipulation or control. It cannot be forced or artificially produced. It can only be recognized, respected, and accepted when it genuinely appears in your life. Jung also noticed something that may surprise you. The deepest connections often begin in ways that challenge our traditional romantic expectations. They can develop from friendships that slowly become deeper. They can emerge from apparent conflicts that uncover deeper similarities. They can grow in situations where both people are completely focused on something other than romance. Archetypal love rarely arrives with the dramatic scenes we expect from movies. Instead, it reveals itself gradually, like a sunrise that slowly turns darkness into light. It needs time for the archetypes to become fully active, for synchronicities to increase, and for shadows to be integrated in a healthy and balanced way. These 5 signs are not a promise that the relationship will be easy or free of challenges. In fact, Jung discovered that the deepest connections often involve more conflict, more growth, and more transformation than superficial relationships. But they also offer something that no other human experience can provide: the opportunity to become who you are truly meant to be. With the activation of your anima or animus, the healthy integration of your shadow, the increase of meaningful synchronicities, the activation of multiple archetypes, and the feeling of living your own personal myth, these are the signs through which your unconscious mind tells you that you have found something sacred, something that goes beyond ordinary love and enters the realm of spiritual transformation. Do not allow the fear of growth to make you reject this opportunity. Do not let the comfort of the familiar stop you from embracing something extraordinary. Do not let the voices of doubt, whether they come from inside you or from others, convince you that you deserve less than the deepest possible connection between 2 people. Your psyche knows what you need for your evolution. Even when your conscious mind is filled with doubts, resistance, and fears, your soul recognizes the truth. Even when your ego clings to familiar but limiting patterns, when you recognize these signs in your life, you stand before a fundamental choice. You can ignore them and remain trapped in familiar patterns that keep you confined to a smaller version of yourself. Or you can gather the extraordinary courage to embrace the deepest transformation a human being can experience. Jung said that meeting true love is, at its deepest level, a meeting with the divine within ourselves. It is the opportunity to experience the union of opposites, the reconciliation of the inner polarities that have divided us, and the realization of the archetypal self that represents our fullest sense of wholeness. Your unconscious already knows the answer. Your soul has already recognized what your mind is desperately trying to understand and classify. The question that will shape the course of your life is this: will you have the courage to listen to this deeper wisdom and act upon it, even if it contradicts everything you thought you understood about love? The signs are present, waiting to be recognized by someone brave enough to look beyond surface appearances. The archetypes are active, waiting to be integrated by someone willing to grow beyond previous limitations. Synchronicity is flowing, waiting to be followed by someone who trusts the wisdom of the universe. And your personal myth is unfolding, waiting to be fully lived by someone who accepts the call of their highest destiny. The love of your life is not simply a person who conveniently fits into your current circumstances. It is a doorway to the most authentic, complete, and powerful version of yourself. One that you could never have imagined without this deeply transformative experience.